The morning sun was rising over Seoul when the sky suddenly turned dark. Park Ji-ho was walking to his construction job carrying his lunchbox and hard hat like every other day for the past 5 years. He worked on building tall apartment buildings and loved his simple life, but today would be different. Today would change everything. High above Earth, massive alien ships appeared from nowhere. They were bigger than any building Ji-ho had ever constructed. The ships were black and silver with strange lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. The sight was so incredible that Ji-ho dropped his lunchbox and just stared up at the sky with his mouth open. Commander Thexville stood on the bridge of his flagship looking down at the blue and green planet below. He had conquered 47 worlds for the mighty Vorthan Empire. This would be number 48. The humans looked weak and soft. They had primitive weapons and simple technology. His advanced scanners showed they still used chemical fuels and metal vehicles. How pathetic. The invasion began exactly at sunrise. Vorthan attack ships descended from the massive motherships like angry metal birds. Energy beams shot down from the sky, turning human military bases into smoking craters. Tanks and fighter jets exploded before they could even fire back. The humans ran in all directions, screaming and crying. Ji-ho watched in horror as the building he was supposed to work on today got hit by a green energy beam. The entire structure melted like ice cream in summer, but instead of running away like everyone else, Ji-ho ran toward the danger. He saw people trapped under fallen concrete and metal. His construction experience told him exactly how to move the debris safely 20 blocks away. In Bizin Kim Nari was starting her shift at the city hospital. She had been a nurse for 8 years and had seen every kind of emergency, but nothing had prepared her for this. The hospital windows shook as alien ships flew overhead and the emergency alarms were going crazy. Injured people started flooding into the hospital. Nari did not panic like the other nurses. She grabbed medical supplies and started treating the wounded. A little girl had a broken arm from falling debris. An old man had burns from an energy beam that hit too close to his house. A pregnant woman was in early labor from the shock and stress. Nari worked on all of them calmly and efficiently. On Jeju Island, Lee Dong-yoon was feeding his chickens when he saw the alien ships appear in the sky. His farm was small and peaceful. He grew vegetables and raised animals for the local market. Dong-yoon was a quiet man who preferred plants and animals to people, but he was also very smart. He had studied engineering in university. Before choosing the simple farming life, Dong-yoon watched the alien ships with sharp eyes. He noticed how they moved in perfect formations. He saw how their energy weapons charged up before firing. He memorized the patterns of their attack runs. Most people were too scared to think clearly, but Dong-yoon was different. He was already trying to understand the enemy. The Vorthan ground forces landed in the major cities. Soldiers in black armor with advanced weapons marched through the streets. Their faces were hidden behind helmets, but their movements showed confidence and arrogance. They had done this many times before on many different worlds. They expected the humans to surrender immediately. Commander Thexville received reports from his ground commanders. Everything was going according to plan. The human military was destroyed within hours. Their leaders were either dead or hiding. The population was scattered and terrified. Some humans tried to fight with their primitive weapons, but they were easily defeated. But something unexpected started happening. Individual humans began doing things that confused the Vorthan soldiers. Instead of just running away, some humans stayed behind to help others. HR was carrying injured children to safety. A police officer was directing traffic to help people escape faster. A doctor was treating wounded people in the middle of a war. Ji-ho had managed to save 12 people from the collapsed building when the Vorthan soldiers found him. He was covered in dust and blood, but still pulling people from the rubble. The alien soldiers pointed their weapons at him, expecting him to beg for his life. Instead, Ji-ho stood up slowly and looked directly at them. "You made a big mistake coming here," he said in a calm voice. The Vorthan soldiers were surprised. They had conquered dozens of species, and all of them had either attacked in rage or cowered in fear. But this human was doing neither. He was just standing there looking at them with steady eyes that showed no fear. The soldiers laughed through their helmet speakers. This weak little creature thought he could threaten the mighty Vorthan Empire. They grabbed Ji-ho and threw him into a transport ship with other captured humans. They would make good slaves in the mining colonies. The physical work would break their spirits quickly. Nari was captured while trying to evacuate patients from the hospital. She had refused to leave even when the building was under attack. She stayed until every single patient was moved to safety. Only then did the Vorthan soldiers catch her. As they dragged her away, she was still giving medical instructions to the other nurses. The alien soldiers expected her to cry or beg like most captured females from other species. Instead, Nari immediately started checking on the other human prisoners. She used torn pieces of her nurse uniform to bandage their wounds. She shared her small water ration with prisoners who looked thirsty. Her captors watched in confusion. Dunyan was found hiding in his farm, but not because he was scared. He was actually studying a crashed Vorthan scout ship that had landed in his vegetable garden while other humans ran from alien technology. Dongyun was trying to understand how it worked. He had already figured out how to open some of the panels. When the soldiers captured him, they found detailed drawings in his notebook, drawings of alien ship designs, weapon configurations, and troop movements. The soldiers thought these were just meaningless scribbles from a primitive mind. They had no idea they were looking at military intelligence gathered by a brilliant, tactical mind. The three humans found themselves on the same prison transport ship along with 2,000 other captured humans. The ship was dark and crowded with barely enough food and water for everyone. The Vorthan guards expected the humans to fight each other for the limited resources. Like most species did, instead something remarkable happened. Jiho organized the prisoners into groups to share resources fairly. Nari set up a medical area to treat the sick and injured. Dongyun quietly studied the ship layout and guard routines. The three had never met before, but they naturally started working together. The Vorthan guards watched in growing confusion. These humans were not behaving like proper slaves. They were not broken or defeated. They were adapting and organizing. The guards had processed millions of prisoners from hundreds of worlds, but had never seen anything like this. As the prison ship left Earth orbit carrying its human cargo toward the mining worlds, Commander Thexville felt satisfied. Another successful conquest for the Empire. The humans would be broken and enslaved. Like all the others, their primitive emotions would make them easy to control, but deep in the dark cargo hold, three ordinary humans were making plans. Park Jiho, the construction worker, Kim Nari, the nurse, and Li Dongyun, the farmer. They did not know it yet, but they were about to teach the galaxy what it really meant to be human. The Vorthan Empire thought they had captured slaves. Instead, they had awakened something that would change the fate of every world. The prison transport ship traveled through space for 27 days before reaching the mining world of Kethmore. The planet was a nightmare of red sand and burning heat. 2 suns blazed in the orange sky, making every day feel like standing inside an oven. The air was thin and dry, making it hard to breathe for creatures not born there. When the ship doors opened, the heat hit the human prisoners like a physical blow. Many fell to their knees, gasping and choking, but Jiho stepped forward, first helping the weaker prisoners stand up again. He had worked construction in summer heat before. This was worse, but he would adapt. They all would adapt. Commander Zulthik, the prison warden, stood watching the new arrivals with cold eyes. He was a veteran of the Vorthan military who had broken thousands of prisoners from dozens of different species. His method was simple: work them until they died, then replace them with fresh slaves. It had never failed. The prison itself was built around massive mining pits that went deep into the planet's surface. Humans were forced to dig for rare crystals that powered Vorthan starships. The work was backbreaking and dangerous. Cave-ins happened daily. Poisonous gases leaked from deep underground. Many prisoners died within their first month, but something strange began happening in Sector 7, where Jiho was assigned instead of every prisoner fighting for themselves. Jiho organized them into teams. When someone got too tired to work, others would quietly help them finish their quota. When someone collapsed from heat exhaustion, the whole team would carry them to shade. The Vorthan guards watched in confusion. They had seen fear, anger, desperation, and madness in prisoners, but never cooperation. Most species would betray each other for an extra ration of food or a few minutes of rest, but these humans shared everything equally. Even when they barely had enough for themselves. Nari was assigned to the medical section of the prison, but it was hardly worthy of the name. There were no real medicines, no proper equipment, and barely any supplies. The previous alien doctor had died months ago from a mining accident. Since then, injured prisoners were simply left to die or recover on their But Nari refused to accept this situation. She began making medicine from whatever she could find. Certain rocks, when ground up and mixed with water, helped with stomach pain. Some of the tough plants growing near the prison walls could stop bleeding. When crushed and applied to wounds, she turned garbage into healing tools. She taught other humans everything she learned. A former chemistry teacher helped her understand why certain combinations worked. A mechanic showed her how to sterilize metal tools using the mining equipment. A mother of 3 taught her which plants the children could safely eat to prevent malnutrition. The human medical knowledge began spreading through the prison population. Humans were surviving injuries that should have killed them. They were recovering from illnesses that had wiped out entire populations of other species. The death rate in the human sections dropped dramatically while other species continued dying as expected. Dongyan was the most dangerous prisoner in the entire facility, though the guards had no idea yet. He was assigned to maintenance duties, fixing the mining equipment and repairing damaged sections of the prison. This gave him access to areas other prisoners never saw, and he used every moment to learn. He memorized the guard rotation schedules. He mapped every tunnel, corridor, and hidden passage. He learned which doors were actually locked and which were just monitored by cameras. He studied the Vorthan language by listening carefully to guard conversations. He was building a complete picture of their prison. More importantly, Dongyun was studying Vorthan technology with the mind of an engineer. The mining equipment was advanced but not impossible to understand. The security systems had weaknesses that could be exploited. The communication networks could be accessed if you knew the right frequency patterns. At night, in the darkness of their sleeping cells, the 3 humans would whisper quietly together. They had become natural leaders among the prisoners, and the other humans looked to them for hope and guidance. Their friendship had grown strong through shared hardship and common purpose. Ejiho had united over 1,500 human prisoners in his section alone. They worked as one coordinated group, helping each other survive and grow stronger. Every day more humans joined their informal organization. The guards saw obedient workers but missed the growing network of resistance. Nari had trained 200 humans in basic medical skills. Her underground hospital saved dozens of lives every week. But more than that, she was giving humans hope by showing them they could take care of each other. The aliens could control their bodies, but not their spirits. Dongyan had identified 37 critical weaknesses in the prison security system. He knew exactly when and how they could escape if they chose to. But he was thinking bigger than just one prison. He was planning something that had never been attempted. In galactic history, the prison warden, Commander Zulthik, was becoming increasingly frustrated. His human prisoners had the highest survival rate of any species he had ever processed. They worked hard without complaint, but they never seemed broken or defeated. There was something in their eyes that he could not crush. He tried increasing the work quotas, but the humans just organized better to meet them. He reduced their food rations, but they shared everything, so no one starved. He extended their working hours, but they found ways to rest and help each other during brief breaks. Nothing seemed to break their spirit. Other alien prisoners began noticing the difference. The humans helped everyone, not just their own species. When a Kelleran prisoner collapsed from exhaustion, human workers carried him to safety. When Zeridian children cried from hunger, human mothers shared their food rations without being asked. This behavior confused and frightened many of the alien guards. They had been taught that all species were naturally selfish and violent, that cooperation was impossible between different groups, that only fear and force could maintain order. But the humans were proving all of this wrong. 6 months after arriving at Kethmore, the human prisoners had transformed their sections of the facility. They had lower death rates, better health, higher morale, and stronger group unity than any other species. The guards reported these strange developments to their superiors, but the Vorthan leadership misunderstood what was happening. They thought the humans were simply adapting well to prison life like some species did. They had no idea that they were watching the birth of a resistance movement that would eventually challenge their entire empire. Late at night, when the guards thought all prisoners were asleep, the humans were actually more active than ever. Messages passed between cells using tap codes and hand signals. Medical training continued in whispered lessons. Strategic information was shared and memorized by dozens of sharp minds. The three leaders knew their time for action was approaching. They had spent months learning about their captors, studying their technology, and building an organization of determined followers. The Vorthans thought they were breaking human spirits, but they were actually forging them into something unbreakable. As Dong-Yun stared up at the alien stars through his cell window, he smiled quietly. The guards thought they were watching over broken slaves. Instead, they were guarding the most dangerous prisoners in galactic history. Humans who had learned to turn suffering into strength and despair into determination. 8 months into their imprisonment, the humans had accomplished something that no other species had ever managed in 10,000 years of Vorthan rule. They had built a secret communication network that connected multiple prison worlds across the galaxy. The guards had no idea that their perfect prison system had been completely infiltrated. The breakthrough came when Jiho discovered that work songs could carry coded messages. The humans had always sung while they worked to keep their spirits up and make the hard labor more bearable, but Jiho realized that by changing certain words or adding extra beats, they could send complex information without the guards. Understanding a song about missing home could actually contain details about guard patrol routes. A tune about lost love might include information about weapon storage locations. A simple melody about earth and sky could carry escape plans and timing coordinates. The guards heard harmless entertainment while vital intelligence flowed freely. Nari made the next crucial discovery while treating an injured Kelleran prisoner in her underground medical center. The alien mentioned that similar human doctors were helping prisoners on other worlds. Nari realized that humans were being distributed across the entire Vorthan prison system, and they were all behaving the same way. She began encoding medical information into the work songs, teaching other species about human healing methods through music that traveled from prison to prison. Soon, alien prisoners on dozens of worlds were using human medical techniques to survive injuries that would have killed them before. But the most important breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A young Vorthan guard named Keldon had been watching Nari work in her medical center for weeks. He had never seen anything like her compassion and skill. She saved lives using nothing but scraps and determination, while Vorthan doctors needed advanced equipment for simple procedures. Keldon had never wanted to be a soldier. He had studied art and philosophy before being forced into military service by his family. His sensitive nature made him different from the other guards who enjoyed their power over prisoners. When he saw Nari save a dying child using only torn cloth and crushed plants, something changed inside him. One night, Keldon approached Nari while she was treating wounded prisoners. He removed his helmet, revealing a young face marked by doubt and confusion. "Why do you help them?" he asked quietly. "They are not even your own species, and they cannot help you in return." Nari looked up from bandaging a Zeridian worker's broken arm. "Because they are alive and in pain," she said simply. "That is enough reason. Someone needs to care for them, and I have the knowledge to do it. If I do not help, who will?" The guard stared at her for a long moment before walking away without another word. But the next night, Keldon returned carrying a small package of real medical supplies. Stolen from the guard medical bay, he said nothing, just placed them near Nara's work area and left again. This became a regular pattern. The young guard providing supplies while the human nurse saved lives. Dongyan noticed the guard's strange behavior and realized they had found their first alien ally. He began leaving small gifts for Keldon, drawings of earth animals and flowers made from colored sand and crushed stones. These simple artworks touched something deep in the guard's artistic soul. Through Keldon, the humans learned crucial information about the greater Vorthan prison system. There were 43 prison worlds scattered across the galaxy. Each held between 50,000 and 200,000 prisoners of various species. The total prisoner population was over 4 million beings. More importantly, Keldon revealed that the prison system was connected by regular supply ships and prisoner transfers. Guards and administrators moved between facilities carrying news and orders. The humans realized they could use this network to coordinate actions across multiple worlds simultaneously. Aho began planning something that had never been attempted in galactic history: a coordinated escape involving multiple prison worlds striking at the same time. The logistics were incredibly complex. Each group would need to move at exactly the right moment. Any mistake would doom everyone involved. The Plan required precise timing and flawless communication. They would need to disable security systems, capture guard posts, seize weapons, and steal transport ships, all while ensuring the safety of non-human prisoners who might get caught in the chaos. It seemed impossible, but humans specialized in impossible tasks. Dongyan had spent months studying Vorthan technology and had made several breakthrough discoveries. Their security systems all used the same basic programming. Their weapons had standard vulnerability points. Their ships could be operated by anyone who understood the basic control principles. The technology was advanced but not unbeatable. Through the Worksong network, detailed plans began spreading to human groups on other prison worlds. Each location received specific instructions tailored to their unique situation. Mining worlds would target excavation equipment, research stations would focus on laboratories. Military prisons would prioritize weapon storage areas. Nari established medical preparation protocols for the escape. Every human group would need field medics and emergency supplies. The plan would inevitably result in injuries and casualties, but proper medical support could save many lives. She trained hundreds of humans in combat first aid using their secret song code system. The network grew stronger every week. Humans were naturally gifted at building social connections and maintaining group loyalty. What had started as 3 friends helping each other survive had become a galaxy-spanning organization of coordinated resistance cells, each connected to the others but independent enough to survive if discovered. Other species began joining the human network voluntarily. The Kellerans contributed their natural strength and endurance. The Zeridians provided technical knowledge about Vorthan computer systems. The Manthari shared their ability to move silently and hide in small spaces. A true multi-species alliance was forming, but it was the humans who held everything together, their natural leadership abilities and gift for inspiring others made them the heart of the growing rebellion. They had taken their greatest weakness, isolation, from their homeworld and turned it into their greatest strength, unity with all oppressed peoples. Commander Zulfik knew something was wrong, but could not identify the problem. Prisoner morale was too high. Work efficiency was suspiciously good. Interspecies cooperation was occurring at unprecedented levels, but his security scans showed nothing unusual. No weapons, no contraband, no obvious signs of rebellion. The prison warden increased surveillance and added random cell searches, but the humans had learned to hide their activities in plain sight. Their resistance network looked like normal prisoner social interaction. Their escape plans were disguised as harmless entertainment. Their military training appeared to be simple exercise routines. 12 months after their capture, the 3 human leaders met in secret. During a maintenance shift, the network was ready. 41 prison worlds were prepared to act simultaneously. Over 2 million prisoners were waiting for the signal. The largest escape attempt in galactic history was about to begin. Jeho looked at his 2 closest friends with pride and determination. They had grown from frightened prisoners into leaders of a galaxy-wide rebellion. They had learned alien languages, mastered foreign technology, and united dozens of species around common goals of freedom and dignity. Nari had transformed from a single nurse into the coordinator of a medical network spanning multiple star systems. Her techniques were saving lives on worlds she had never seen. Her students were teaching others, creating an ever-expanding web of healing knowledge and compassionate care. Dongyan had evolved from a simple farmer into a strategic mastermind whose plans would soon shake the foundations of the Vorthan Empire. His quiet intelligence had mapped their weaknesses, identified their vulnerabilities, and designed their downfall. The signal would come soon, and when it did, the galaxy would discover what happened when you tried to control humans. You did not get obedient slaves. You got something far more dangerous: freedom fighters who would never stop until every chain was broken and every prison was empty. The night of the Great Escape, 41 prison worlds held their breath under alien stars. In the deepest darkness before dawn, over 2 million prisoners prepared to do something that had never been attempted in galactic history. They would strike simultaneously across thousands of light years of space with perfect coordination. On Kethmore, Jeho stood before 1,500 human prisoners in the main mining chamber. They had gathered during the shift change when the guards were distracted by routine paperwork. These were not the same broken people who had arrived over a year ago. They stood tall with bright eyes full of determination and hope. Tonight we show them what humans are really made of. Jiho whispered, and his words spread through the crowd in seconds like electricity jumping between conductors. Tonight, we prove that chains can hold our bodies, but never our spirits. Tonight, we take back our freedom and help others find theirs too. The message had been sent through their song network 6 hours earlier using a maintenance ballad that seemed to be about fixing broken equipment. But encoded in the melody were precise timing coordinates, weapon locations, guard schedules, and emergency procedures. Every human group knew exactly what to do and when to do it. Nari moved through the shadows of the prison medical bay, distributing emergency supply kits to the escape teams. She had spent weeks preparing for this moment, gathering medicines, bandages, and makeshift surgical tools. Her network of trained medics was ready to handle the casualties that would inevitably come. She thought about all the lives that hung in the balance tonight. Not just human lives, but Kelleran, Ziridian, Manthari, and dozens of other species who had joined their cause. The escape would succeed or fail based on how well they protected each other during the chaos that was about to begin. Dongyan crouched in the maintenance tunnels beneath the prison, reviewing his carefully drawn maps one final time. Every detail had to be perfect. The timing had to be exact. One mistake would doom not just their prison, but all 41 facilities participating in the coordinated breakout. His plans were beautiful in their complexity. While some teams created distractions, others would disable security systems. While guards responded to false alarms in one sector, prisoners would be seizing weapons in another. The Vorthans would be overwhelmed by the sheer scope and coordination of the simultaneous attacks. At exactly midnight Galactic Standard Time, the signal went out. A simple 4-note melody hummed by prisoners during their final cell check. It sounded like a lullaby, but it meant begin the operation. The largest prison break in the history of the galaxy had officially started. On Kethmore, the first move was Keldon's. Jiho had convinced the sympathetic guard to help them, and Keldon had spent weeks gradually reducing security in key areas. Tonight he would complete his transformation from guard to freedom fighter by opening the main weapon storage facility. Keldon walked calmly to the armory, his hands shaking slightly, but his resolve firm. He had made his choice weeks ago when he realized that the humans were not monsters but heroes. Everything he had been taught about inferior species and natural order had been proven wrong by their compassion and courage. As he entered the security codes to unlock the weapon storage, Keldon thought about his family. Back on the Vorthan homeworld, they would never understand his choice, but he knew it was right. These prisoners deserved freedom just as much as any Vorthan citizen. The Empire had lied to all of them. The armory doors opened silently, and within seconds, human prisoners were moving like shadows to collect alien weapons. They had trained for this moment, using improvised tools and studying guard procedures. Now they handled advanced Vorthan rifles and energy weapons with surprising skill and confidence. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Prison after prison experienced coordinated attacks that seemed impossible to stop. Guards who had grown lazy and overconfident were overwhelmed by prisoners who had been studying their every weakness. For months, the escape plans were working perfectly. On the research station Vel Taros, human prisoners led by a former Earth scientist had spent months learning how to operate alien computer systems. Tonight they used that knowledge to shut down security networks across an entire star system. Prison ships found themselves unable to communicate or call for reinforcements. The mining world Torgeth saw its human population execute a brilliant tactical maneuver. They allowed themselves to be locked in the deepest mine shafts during the initial alarm, then used stolen mining equipment to blast their way up through the prison foundations. Emerging behind the guard positions like deadly ghosts, industrial prison Ketmaros experienced what looked like a massive equipment failure as humans who had been forced to maintain alien machinery for months suddenly turned their technical knowledge against their captors. Every system began malfunctioning at once, creating chaos and confusion among the guards. But the most shocking moment came when entire guard units began defecting to join the prisoners. Aliens who had served the Vorthan Empire faithfully for years suddenly realized they were on the wrong side. Keldon's courage had inspired others, and the rebellion grew stronger with every passing hour. The prison transport ship Nexus 7 was hijacked by its own prisoners while traveling between worlds. The human passengers had spent the journey teaching other species how to work Together, instead of fighting each other when they took control of the ship, it was through cooperation, not violence back. On Kethmore, Jiho led his group in capturing the main guard tower. Without firing a single shot, they simply surrounded it and waited. The guards inside realized they were outnumbered 50-1 by prisoners who had proven they were not mindless animals but intelligent, organized. Opponent's commander Zulfik barricaded himself in his office as alarms blared throughout. The facility, his perfect prison, was falling apart around him, and he could not understand how it had happened. The humans were supposed to be broken slaves, not strategic masterminds leading a coordinated military operation. He tried to call for reinforcements, but discovered that his communication systems had been sabotaged by the maintenance workers who had seemed so harmless. He attempted to activate emergency lockdown procedures, but found that his security networks had been compromised from within. As dawn broke over Kethmore, Jiho stood on the prison walls, looking out at a transformed landscape. Thousands of former prisoners were working together to establish temporary shelters and medical stations. Humans, Kellers, Zeridians, and dozens of other species cooperated as equals to build something better than what they had torn down. Nari had established a field hospital in the former guard barracks, treating injuries from both sides of the conflict. She saved the lives of wounded guards as readily as escaped prisoners, proving that human compassion extended even to their former captors. This gesture of mercy shocked many alien observers. Stengen was coordinating with resistance cells on other worlds using captured communication equipment. The reports were incredible. 37 of the 41 targeted prisons had been successfully liberated. Over 1.8 million prisoners were now free and organizing themselves into cooperative communities, but more importantly, they had proven something that terrified the Vorthan Empire beyond words: humans could not be controlled through force. They responded to oppression by becoming stronger. They answered cruelty with kindness. They met hatred with hope. They were everything the Empire was not. The escaped prisoners did not scatter and hide as expected. Instead, they began working together to improve the worlds they had liberated. They turned prison facilities into hospitals, schools, and community centers. They welcomed defecting guards as friends and equals. They showed mercy to their former oppressors. Word of the Great Escape spread across the galaxy like wildfire, carried by trade ships, news networks, and refugee populations. Every oppressed species heard the same incredible story. Humans had not just broken free from the most secure prisons in the galaxy, they had shown everyone a better way to live. The Vorthan Empire faced a crisis unlike anything in their history. They had awakened something in humans that they could not control or destroy. Every act of cruelty had only made the rebellion stronger. Every prison had become a training ground for resistance. Every attempt to break human spirits had forged them into diamonds. As Jiho watched the sunrise paint the sky in colors of hope and freedom, he smiled quietly. The construction worker from Seoul had helped build something more important than any apartment building. He had helped construct a foundation for galactic liberty that would stand for generations to come. The escaped humans didn't just run and hide. They did something that shocked the entire galaxy. They started liberating other prison worlds and freeing alien prisoners too. Jiho's leadership had evolved beyond just saving humans. He was building an alliance of every species that had suffered under Vorthan rule. The rebellion's first major victory came at the mining world of Torgas. Instead of a direct attack, Nari proposed something revolutionary. They would show the aliens a better way to live. When they took control of the planet, they didn't destroy the infrastructure, they improved it. Humans worked alongside freed alien prisoners to create a society based on cooperation instead of fear. News of this spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Other oppressed species began to whisper about the humans who kept their promises and treated everyone fairly. Prison planets started experiencing technical failures as alien guards began secretly helping prisoners escape. The Vorthan Empire was facing something they had never encountered, an enemy that grew stronger by being kind. Instead of cruel, Dongyun had become the rebellion's strategic mastermind. He realized that the Vorthan's greatest weakness was their inability to understand cooperation. They ruled through fear and saw every relationship as master and slave. When the humans showed that different species could work together as equals, It confused and frightened the alien leadership. The turning point came when an entire Vorthan battle fleet defected to the human-led rebellion. Commander Veltar, a veteran of dozens of conquests, stood before the Galactic Council and declared, "I have seen what humans are capable of. They don't conquer, they liberate. They don't rule, they serve. They are everything we pretended to be but never were." As more worlds joined the rebellion, the Vorthans faced a terrifying reality. They had awakened something in humans that they couldn't control or destroy. Every act of cruelty against humans only made the rebellion stronger. Every prison they built became a training ground for human resistance. They had created their own worst nightmare, an enemy that became more dangerous the more you hurt them. 3 years after the Great Prison escape, the galaxy was unrecognizable. The Vorthan Empire had not been destroyed through war and violence, but had been transformed through something far more powerful, the irresistible appeal of freedom and hope. Their former subjects had chosen to join the human-led alliance. Voluntariliaho stood in the great council chamber of New Terra, looking out at representatives from over 300 species, sitting together making decisions through discussion and compromise rather than force. The construction worker from Sol had become a galactic leader, but he never forgot his simple beginnings. The chamber itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering. Human architects had worked with Kelleran builders, Zeridian artists, and Manthari craftsmen to create something beautiful that reflected the values of every species that called it home. Natural light flowed through crystal windows while living walls of plants from dozens of worlds created a garden. Atmosphere. Each species had equal representation regardless of their population or military power. Decisions were made through patient discussion and careful consideration of how every choice would affect all member worlds. The old Vorthan system of rule through fear had been replaced by governance through wisdom. Nari had established the Galactic Medical Institute, a network of hospitals and training centers that spanned thousands of worlds. Her techniques, which had begun as desperate improvisation in alien prisons, had become the foundation of a new approach to healthcare that treated both body and spirit. The institute was more than just medical facilities. It was a symbol of the new galactic civilization. Students from hundreds of species learned together, sharing knowledge that had been kept secret for millennia by the Vorthan system of divide and control. The healing arts became a bridge between different cultures. Her greatest achievement was the integration of emotional healing with physical medicine. She had learned in the prisons that treating injuries without addressing trauma was incomplete. The institute trained counselors and therapists alongside doctors and surgeons, creating a holistic approach to wellness. Dongyan had helped design the new governmental system based on Earth democratic principles, but adapted for a galactic scale. The quiet farmer had become the architect of freedom, using his strategic mind to create institutions that would protect liberty. For generations to come, the system was built on the principle that power must always flow upward from the people rather than downward from rulers. Local communities elected representatives to planetary councils, which sent delegates to sector assemblies, which chose members for the Galactic Senate. Every voice mattered most. Importantly, the new government had strict limits on its own power. No single leader could make decisions for everyone. No military force could be used against member worlds without unanimous consent. No species could be forced to participate in activities that violated their cultural values. The transformation of the former Vorthan homeworld had become a powerful symbol of redemption and change. Instead of seeking revenge against their former captors, the humans had helped Vorthan people rebuild their society based on cooperation and respect. Many former guards now worked alongside their former prisoners as equals. Commander Veltar, who had defected during the rebellion, had become the planet administrator, working tirelessly to help his people adapt to life without empire. His transformation from military conqueror to public servant inspired millions of Vorthans to embrace the new way of living. The planet itself had been transformed from a military fortress into a center of learning and culture. The massive weapons factories had been converted into universities and research institutes. The former imperial palace had become a museum dedicated to the victims of the old system, but the greatest change was in the hearts and minds of the Vorthan people themselves. Children who had been raised to see other species as inferior now played and learned, alongside aliens they once would have enslaved adults who had spent their lives in military service, discovered the joy of creative pursuits. The new galactic economy was based on cooperation rather than exploitation. Each world contributed what it could produce best while receiving what it needed most. The humans had proven that prosperity came not from conquest but from trade partnership and mutual support resource. Extraction was carefully managed to protect planetary environments. Industrial production was shared among multiple worlds to prevent any single location from bearing too much burden. Scientific research was open and collaborative, with discoveries shared freely among all member species. The military forces of the new alliance existed purely for defense and disaster relief. The galaxy had learned that true security came not from the ability to destroy enemies, but from the absence of reasons to fight. Wars became impossible when everyone benefited from peace. As Jiho walked through the streets of New Terra, he marveled at how much had changed. Children of dozens of species played together in parks while their parents worked on projects that would benefit the entire galaxy. Art and music from hundreds of cultures blended together, creating new forms of beauty. Street vendors sold food from every world, while craftsmen displayed goods made using techniques passed down through millennia of different civilizations. The diversity that the Vorthans had seen as a source of weakness had become the new galaxy's greatest strength. The former prison worlds had become centers of excellence in their own right. Kethmore was now famous for its mining engineering programs that taught sustainable extraction methods. Torgas had become a crystal research facility that supplied advanced technology for peaceful purposes. Valtaros, the research station, had evolved into the galaxy's premier scientific academy, where species that had been enemies for generations now worked together to unlock the secrets of the universe. Their combined knowledge was advancing science at an unprecedented rate. In the evening, Jiho often met with Nari and Dongyun in a simple cafe that reminded them of their old lives on Earth. They would discuss the challenges of governing a galactic civilization, but they never lost sight of why they had started this journey. We did not fight for power, Jiho would remind them. We fought for freedom. We did not seek to